How's it going, guys? It's Pride here, and today we're going to be looking at the new chapter of Boruto, chapter 13, and the chapter is called Prescience. Now, prescience basically means clairvoyance, or in more simpler terms, future sight, and explains so much about what has happened with Boruto and how Boruto has achieved so much in so little time in comparison to all of his friends. But I'll explain more about that as we get into it. So without further ado, let's look at the first page. So the first page starts off where we left off in the last chapter, with GAARA looking over Boruto, about to assassinate him for real this time, saying that he has regrets about doing this, but Boruto does have to go. However, he is interrupted by his companion, who tells him that based off investigations, they actually figured out that Boruto has an accomplice. Now, at this moment, I will like to say it is pretty amazing and surprising to figure out that Boruto does have an accomplice this fast with so little information. Like, one of these guys must have some type of cracked ability to like see the unseen or like track down people insanely well, because we know his accomplice Koji should be pretty well hidden and probably hasn't left his hideout in forever. And Boruto has the literal ability to just teleport and just appear places. So I can only think of a couple of ways. Either there's like some type of busted ability that one of these 10-tailed people have, or that they found one of the frogs that's just like surveilling the area and hasn't actually alerted the frog that has been seen or sighted. That could be what has happened, but I'm not 100% sure. It's still amazingly surprising. Anyway, back to the story. GAARA looks over at Boruto, thinking for a moment, and then he sees I see. So that is his source of intel on how he knows of the thorn soul bulb and such, which his companion Mamashi brings back the thought of, hey, isn't that soul bulb like Hidari's? He must have got himself killed. With GAARA saying our foe is formidable, let's retreat as we cannot let Hidari's bulb rot. So there is a time limit on these bulbs. Like, if they are destroyed for a set period of time, or just hanging out for a long period of time without being reconnected to the tree, I'm assuming, it will eventually cease to exist. That's what we got from that little information right there. GAARA also states that Boruto must be a lucky man, as if the heavens themselves have decreed that he has to live, like this is some type of divine intervention. Back to the chapter, we see that Boruto is starting to fade into unconsciousness, and as he does, he goes into his flashback. He's being chased by multiple ninjas. He's cornered. This is obviously after Sasuke has been turned into a tree and Boruto has fully embraced the rogued hairstyle, which is basically Sasuke's signature hairstyle. But at this point, Boruto is truly running out of places to go, and this could be the end for him. But luckily, a toad shows up just in the nick of time. He tells Boruto that there's too many people in the area, but he also knows that Boruto can't kill any of these people in order to seek out his own freedom. Boruto is confused, wanting to know who this person is. The frog tells him he's not a foe. If he was, he would have been already captured by now because he would have snitched. Boruto still wants to know what this frog motives is, which basically says that, hey, just touch the toad's back, which refers to himself in third person, at least from Boruto's point of view, and says that we do not have the time for this. Wherever the heck you end up is going to be better than here, unless you're scared of toads. With Boruto eventually giving in and touching the toad's back. And then you see Koji in this little ominous cave using the summoning jutsu to basically reverse summon Boruto to him, which is a pretty unique style of summoning. You don't really see this ever. Sasuke basically did this once upon a time, but almost no one else does a summoning version of this at any point in time. But yet Koji's out here, you know, the best man alive apparently, doing the impossible. Boruto looks at his surroundings, wondering where he's at, with Koji basically saying that he's in near the land of the wind, which is decently far away, and in one of Orochimaru's abandoned bases. It's already been camouflaged and then enhanced with genjutsu, so they should not be found easily. It's also at this point where he explains that the toad is actually artificially made, and it isn't a real toad. He's just using chakra to remotely control the toad, and it is what allows him to talk to Boruto. The toad cannot talk for itself, which does make sense, because at one point in time, I did think that Koji was using like a different sect of toads, because why would the toads choose to bond or like sign a contract with the clone of Jiraiya? Having the love of Jiraiya, the toads will probably think this is just like the worst person in the world, be a betrayal to Jiraiya in some way. So this is a pretty good explanation for why he's able to use toads, even though the toads would logically never sign a contract with this man. Man-made toads. The science is pretty advanced in Boruto, like insanely advanced in Boruto to make toes like this, and can also be summoned. Insane. Boruto asks who this man is because he's never seen this man unmasked before, and he brings the mask up to his face to remind Boruto of who he is, and then goes on to say that he is Kashin Koji, and he's an artificial creation, just like these toads, who was brought into being by Amato. Boruto's like, ah, I do remember you because you tried to kill me at one point in time. Koji is getting straight to the point as he wants to know if Boruto is the Uzumaki Boruto from the moment he was born. With Boruto confused, give me a straight answer. And it's at this point that Boruto is like, do you know of omnipotence? And Koji's like, so that's the name for it. And he says, in my head, you are Boruto, who is Ishiki's vessel, who fled GAARA. My perception is that Amato and I helped you break out, but I am wrong. No. And he goes on to say, I don't know a whole lot about the ability you call omnipotent. However, I do have an appreciation of the results it brought about. So that day, you were chased from the village, and it appears that everyone's memories related to you and Kawaki was flipped. Pretty much, he got the hand of it immediately, which only makes Boruto even more confused of the situation, as he says he doesn't understand. If you're clearly affected by it, how are you able to grasp the situation so well? With Koji saying, I knew that this was a possibility that would end up happening ahead of time. Boruto not understanding what that means. Koji backtracks a little bit and says that he owes Boruto an apology for trying to kill him, and he was just following orders. With Boruto, saying that I know how shinobis are, we have the way of the mission. So Boruto basically says he understands where Koji is coming from. Koji goes back into the topic of, as you know, I was created to stop Ishiki and coincidentally and stop his planet destroying divine tree. However, Ishiki was way too overpowered, but it still worked out in his favor because Ishiki came out of Jigen. Because he got him to that point, he had no regrets and he felt like he can leave the rest to the Hokage, aka Naruto, and he just awaited his death. However, as we see here, Koji apparently had a lot of visions that hasn't happened yet, visions that he couldn't have been present for. He then says, it happened suddenly, but as I watched various scenes flash by one after another, I realized that these scenes were glimpses of future realities. And then there is one scene where we see all of the Ten Tails people and one extra guy that has not been there, and this dude looks insane. I don't know who that guy is. He kind of had the dead eyes of Kawaki, just a little bit, just like the cool glare. But I don't know, like this guy right here, he looks like trouble. And if anything, I can also kind of see him a tad bit like Naruto, just a bit, which is also horrifying. Don't know who he is, just like I don't know who Jura could have been a tree of, because all these guys came about from people that was encapsulated by a tree. So I don't know who Jura is related to, but this unknown man right here, he looks just as dangerous, if not more dangerous than everyone else on this panel. Like that's an aura right there. But anyway, back to it. Koji continues saying that he realized that Ishiki's death wasn't going to be enough, that until the Ten Tails itself was destroyed, the planet would continue to always be in danger. So he still had things he had to do. He couldn't just let himself die. So he picked himself back up and he started making plans. Since then, he's been comparing what actually took place against the mirrored visions that he saw that day, and he got a deeper understanding and conviction about this ability, meaning he can use his ability a lot more often now. Don't know if this ability comes with any drawbacks yet, but he basically says that he always is going to have this future sight ability. And Boruto basically says, so you knew that this was going to happen before it happened. Koji says, yep, although there are parts that he is confirming for the first time through this conversation, as there are obviously limits to just being able to see various visions. He has to also actually interact with something at some point. Boruto asks, what is this ability anyway, and how did you come to have it all of a sudden? He goes on to say that I'm sure Amato's told you about Otsutsuki Shibai, the Otsutsuki, the strongest one so far, who has devoured countless planets long ago and acquired all sorts of shinjutsu and was even called a god. Each of the members of the GAARA were enhanced with modifications by Amato, who receives transplants from Shibai cells without fail, which at this moment I still want to say, how did they get this man's body? Like, if Shibai was some alien dude from the multiverse who just upped and died because he just left his mortal body behind, how was it anywhere near planet Earth that this body was at? Like, unless Ishiki brought the body there, there's that one plot hole. Just like, how did he get the body? But we're not going to deal with that right now. Just want y'all to think about that a little bit, about how that even happened. That's a little wild. But as he says, he used the cells of Shibai and without fail put it in everyone in the hopes that we at least manifest one of his many Shinjutsus. Meaning that if you got one ability, that's great. If you got two abilities, that's awesome. If you got 5 abilities, like it's not like you can only get one ability. It's like which ability is going to proc in you and if you're going to have more than one. You know what I mean? But so far, almost everyone has just one ability. He goes on to say that Code has the claw marks, Damon can reflect all attacks, and Ada has godlike abilities. But Boro, Delta, nor himself demonstrated any. That was until he was faced with certain death and one just emerged at that moment. His ability is Prescience, which is the ability to see all possible futures. This dude is basically Yahabaha from from Bleach. Back to it, he says that this may seem obvious to you, but our abilities aren't just one linear path. It has many branches that can obviously grow or die depending on the actions that is being taken. A constant battle royale, basically between the destinies, so to speak. So he even brings up an example of what would happen if Ishiki were to actually have killed Naruto and resurrected in Kawaki's body, and how that would have worked out. He said even though that didn't happen, there was a good likelihood of that happening. He brings up another example of how Kawaki caused the Hokage to disappear and actually killed both you and killed both Boruto and Sarada, and in that case Kawaki would have never switched positions. He would still be pretty much the traitor, and Kawaki would go on to lose to a very strong Code, because at that point Code was stronger than Kawaki, eventually also be devoured by the Ten Tails, which would destroy the planet. He also goes on to say that obviously it's difficult to prove what he has seen, especially if they didn't occur, but the main point is that the future has continuously been walking on a dangerous tightrope for several years now. Boruto is stunned. That's a crazy story, but he gotta believe it, seeing how he knows the truth, even though omnipotence is pretty powerful of an ability, and yet he still knows the truth of how things are taking place. Saying that he wouldn't want to believe this, but it just seems like there's no way this is just bullshit either. So have to admit that you gotta be telling the truth. And Boruto does bring up an interesting question, saying how aren't some things are just gonna happen no matter what? So seeing all sorts of futures, how can that be useful? And the biggest advantage is intel. For example, Koji knew that Boruto's life was on the run and he can prevent him being cornered at any point in time. Be like, hey, yo, you about to get cornered. You need to take the left instead of this right. Basically, Boruto saying, yeah, that would help. And then here's the big one right here. He also says that I could impart to the present you moves and jutsus that the future you has mastered. Wouldn't that accelerate your learning and optimize training? That part right there is, because I've been wondering, how does Boruto know how strong Usuhiko is? The ability, just to train that and practice that, and like to see the upper limits of what it is, seems insanely dangerous. Like, who are you practicing that on? Where at? Without anyone noticing or seeing, right? And you know, this could be pretty much the big one right here. Now, this also, sadly, this pretty much puts him back in the same vein of Naruto, about how basically Naruto kind of cheated by just using multiple clones and basically going on 2 times experience, you know, just like gaining multiple levels in a certain thing because he has multiple clones training at the same time. Boruto's doing the same thing, but just in a vastly different way, which I just thought that Boruto was just that guy for a second there and just somehow just figured out how to do all of these things in like the short years. And the entire time I was thinking, what has his friends been doing? Like, Sarada doesn't seem like she's gotten that much more powerful. Konohamaru, he has some growth, changing up the Rasengan a bit, but like Boruto out here with insanely different moves. He seems insanely stronger to everyone else. He can fight these Ten Tails one-on-one and damn near win almost against all of them. But here's the answer. Boruto technically cheated. He had some god tier training. He had that 4 or 5 times XP, you know what I mean? Like, he's still a master prodigy, but Boruto does say that that is awesome and says that that's possible. And he says there's no time paradox to this because, well, I'm just relaying to you what I've already seen you do. And he even goes one step further by saying I can even tell you how to rescue Sasuke Uchiha from his tree. But first, you do need to know the worst case scenario that's possible right now. Basically, Boruto wondering what the worst future could be. And he says the Ten Tails break free of Cold's control and evolve in a new way. They will likely show up before us as multiple divine tree people who possess individual mind. is a playback to when Boruto was trying to tell Code to hurry up and try to destroy the Ten Tails before things get worse. At that point in time, everyone was wondering, how can you know what's about to happen? Did you find a book about these Ten Tails? Because this seems unprecedented in any lore anywhere, even to the Otsutsuki themselves. And the answer is here. Like, this scene right here is how Boruto knew what was going to happen and why he attempted to have Code help him, even though it was a far-fetched thing to do. Which is what Koji basically says right here towards the end. He says that it's pretty a low likelihood that it's going to happen, which it didn't. And as in every future, the Divine Tree people are there, and the most dangerous of them is GAARA. So that one new guy that we saw, he's not the most dangerous. It's still GAARA the most dangerous, the sniper god. And he even says that Boruto, he's just gonna straight up kill you. Like in a lot of futures, that dude kills you. It's not an absolute thing, but it happens. And then Kawaki gets devoured and the planet dies. Obviously, this can't happen. This is the worst outcome that could happen, but there are infinite possible futures. And just knowing this alone has already changed the future again. With Boruto takes this all in and says, I just want you to know one thing. No matter what, whatever the plan is to kill these guys, stop them, we're not killing Kawaki, because he wants to knock some sense into him, just like how Naruto knocks his sense into Sasuke. That's his goal. And so he says, don't waste your breath. We're gonna fight Code, we're gonna beat the Ten Tails, and that's just what it's gonna be. Boruto then starts to regain consciousness a little bit, but he's still dreary, weak and dreary. Sumari is telling Boruto not to move. Kawaki's just looking at him calmly. Sarada is still reeling from the pain. She has some nerve damage, but she doesn't care, as she wants Boruto to be healed up. This is where Himawari wakes up, and she immediately runs over to Sarada and actually heals her, thanks to her instant grasp on how to use Kuruma's chakra. Even Konohamaru is shocked. Everyone's basically shocked at this point. Sumari's asking for her to help Boruto too, with Kawaki saying, hold on, not just yet. We'll heal him, but first we gotta do a couple of things. With Konohamaru going over and saying this is the perfect chance, actually, as we need the intel that Boruto has, and we're gonna put these new cuffs on him that seal jutsu. I'm assuming it works in the same way that wood style works, because wood style also seals the ability to cast jutsus itself. And saying how they already made a machine that can absorb jutsus, it's not too far-fetched to also make something like this. These guys are turning more and more into a modern age where police are a thing, and so you gotta be able to stop shinobi from breaking out of jails in some way, some form. Here it is. And he said, hey, Sarah, you can't complain. This is just the law. This is what we got to do. We're going to contact Lord Eighth and we're going to get some stuff figured out. Kawaki sees one of Koji's frogs, and when Konohamaru asks about it, he just says, no need to think about it. It's all good. With Koji saying this is a terrible turn of events. Back to the lair of the Divine Tree people, we see them put the soul bulb on this pedestal. Trees nurture it, and Hidari is back, and he seems to be fully well. And they have another soul bulb. It seems like that's the only one. We can't really see another one in this picture, but they want to see what it looks like, what it's going to emerge as. And so they say it's okay to harvest it now. And that is where we end the chapter, guys, with them wanting to know the name. Now, we obviously know who that person is going to be. It's going to be the mysterious man who seems he's going to be a huge problem. And from what we know about all these Divine Tree people, they all have objectives and people they want to go after. So I'm going to assume that this tree person is going to go after probably, let's see here. Again, he kind of looks like Naruto or Boruto, so I'm not sure if he's going to go after like someone like Himawari, just cuz. If he's going to go after like, I can't really think of anyone else that got turned into a tree. I'll have to look back at it to see all the people that got turned into trees. But this is probably going to be a powerful shinobi of some type. Ah, it could be GAARA. I know who it is. They got the boy. You know what? After thinking about it for a bit, I think it's GAARA's son. That dude kind of looks just like him, just a little bit. I could be bugging. I'm not 1000% sure, but if we pull up the pictures side by side, he's a pretty good resemblance. I think GAARA's next on the hit list. I think GAARA's next, and we're gonna get the One Tails back. But yeah, that's my headcanon right there. This guy's gonna be GAARA's son. Shinki, whatever his new name's going to be, is going to go after GAARA. And obviously he's going to have some type of crazy Rinnegan metal release ability. That might actually be the best ability any of these guys got besides the girl with wood style. That might be the best thing here. So it's going to be pretty crazy. It's going to be crazy. I mean, we got to wait for the next chapter though. So which is going to be like in a month and a half. But I'll be here when that happens. Anyway, that is it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Don't forget to comment your thoughts about what you guys thought about this chapter. What interests you the most? What is the craziest part about it? Do you want future vision? We kind of had to see it coming, not gonna lie. I'm surprised I didn't think about it myself, to be honest, completely went over my head. We gotta have an all-powerful ability next, but that is besides the point. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.